I've never ever put my project bird in the care of somebody who's actually just given it away.
Hello, my name is Adrienne and I'm Clyde's new mom.
So I left Clyde with my dear friend Patty, who you guys probably recognize the name of from my Morgan series here on the YouTube channel. And as soon as I got back into Signal, because P.S. I was on a liveaboard in the middle of the ocean in the Bahamas for a week straight, as soon as I got back into Signal, my phone was going mad crazy. I had messages from pretty much everyone I know saying, Patty's trying to get a hold of you desperately, you need to get a hold of her. Something about your project bird. Then I saw my messages from Patty and she said, not a health emergency, but I need to talk to you ASAP. So I get into range, I text Patty that I'm going to call her shortly as soon as I get off the boat. I get off the boat, I call her, and she tells me a pretty crazy story about how her daughter came to visit her, met Clyde, fell in love with Clyde, or better yet, Clyde fell in love with her, and she had to make a choice because she couldn't get a hold of me. I've never ever put my project bird in the care of somebody who's actually just given it away. Especially before I was done. However, I learned so much from this experience with Clyde. I took on a project bird when I was not in the correct mental headspace to do so. My schedule was crazy, I was traveling a lot. It's something I never do. Anytime I'm taking on a project bird, it's really planned and sorted out in a way that I know my schedule's wide open to dedicate to this bird. My schedule wasn't that way. I was traveling a lot, which is why this was about the third time that Patty had watched Clyde for me in this span of time. I think it's also why, just emotionally and mentally, I was in a really bad space, and trying to navigate that and put more workload on me was really difficult because I couldn't truly give a piece of myself to Clyde like I feel like I normally do with project birds. That was really difficult for me. And I remember talking to Dave about it one day. I actually muted the audio in a lot of my training with him because oftentimes Dave was there and I was just like spilling my guts out, just trying to figure out what was going on inside and outside, and I was just going through a lot. And I remember telling Dave, I think I know what's missing from my training, and it's love. It's just like me giving a piece of myself to this bird. I was missing doing that because I was in such a terrible space that I couldn't bring myself to do that with anybody, anything, even myself I couldn't give that to. And so how could I expect to give it to an animal? And I think what Clyde felt from Adrienne was love. The other cool thing is in the past, I've felt frustrated with some parrot rescues for being like, doing this whole, you have to meet the bird has to like you, because I feel like that's a really big ask. It can be hard and difficult to create chemistry with a brand new animal, brand new human in a very short amount of time. And I feel like it has kind of put a ceiling on who the bird could possibly go to, and they could be missing out on a lot of possible forever homes. And so it's something that's actually frustrated me in the past about a lot of rescues. It wasn't until Clyde that I fully had an appreciation for this process, and I realized, wow, birds can truly, truly pick people. And some people, which I've always known, are just prone to be really, compatible with certain species. I definitely have the urge to work with every single species of parrot that there is. And that's just because I want to gain more experience and more insight and be more well-rounded as a trainer to be able to offer help and feedback to people. But also through doing that, I've definitely worked with some species where I'm like, not my vibe. Just not my jam. And that's okay because everybody feels differently. I think people feel that way about dogs, about cats, about cars, about everything. We all have like what we like and what we mesh with, and that's totally okay. This whole series with Clyde is something that I've been dreading putting on YouTube. I've been dreading hearing what people are gonna have to say and are just going to, I feel like the guys are gonna light me on fire. And so, but it's also something where I'm looking at it like, okay, I wasn't really set up for success. I didn't set up all my cards properly. I did this under a tremendous amount of stress. I did this when I wasn't in a good space. I did this when I couldn't prioritize my time and my schedule accurately. And then I realized that's probably most people. And so here it is, and it's got to be real. And that's why I share the things that I do, is because it is real and it gives you a realistic expectation of certain things, and how somebody, even with my experience of working with a lot of different species and a lot of different birds, and, you know, I want to say usually succeeding, can have these times where you're just not as successful as you want to be, and you probably made decisions that you shouldn't have. And it's just real life, guys. It's just real life, and it's real decisions. And I feel like these birds teach me so much. I wish I taught them half as much as they teach me. So I hope you've enjoyed the Clyde series and know that he's in great hands, and that all this just happened for a reason. I mean, I don't want to say I have regrets, because the outcome was perfect. And if I changed anything, I worry that that outcome wouldn't have happened the way it did. And it was obviously supposed to happen like this.
Story time. I was visiting my mom. This coincided with a period of time where she was watching Clyde. Long story short, I get to Idaho, I get to my mom's house, and I walk in, and pretty much immediately I'm greeted by this little feathery banana named Clyde, who's just the cutest little thing. But my mom did warn me that he's still kind of learning to be friendly with hands, and maybe isn't the best at physical interaction with humans, and just be careful, keep my distance, don't get a finger bit, that kind of stuff. So naturally I do as any, kid does when their parents tells them not to do something. I did that thing. I immediately went to go pick up Clyde, and he immediately stepped up, and I held him up to my face. He gave me little kisses, preened my cheek, and I'm like, this is not really the bird that was described to me, but okay. And I just thought it was like a fluke little interaction, or maybe he was just excited to see somebody because he'd been alone for a couple hours while my mom was getting me from the airport. I told my mom about the interaction, and she was like, oh, okay, well, just keep in mind, maybe he might not be consistent with that behavior with you. Well, I went in next time and it was the same thing. And the thing he was consistent in was him being sweet with me and wanting to step up and wanting attention from me and wanting to spend time with me. So I indulged him as often as I could. And I totally fell in love. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, totally fell in love, hook, line, and sinker. So I kind of mentioned to my mom, well, I know that eventually Clyde is gonna need a home. And now I am very, very much so considering this as an option for me, because I have completely fallen in love. So we made the decision to cancel my flight back to Seattle. And then the gears started turning a little bit, and we're like, well, I mean, if I'm not flying back, and I'm gonna have to drive back with you, I mean, what if Clyde happened to end up in the car back to Seattle? I mean, how crazy, weird. So anyway, my mom was like, well, I might need to kind of ask Jamie and Dave first, since it's kind of their bird that they're fostering in the moment. So let me reach out to them. So we tried to get a hold of them, but they were on a cruise, a family vacation, and they were not reachable at that moment. So we tried and tried and tried and tried and tried before I had to make my way back to Seattle. So we decided to just kind of go for it, because at the end of the day, Clyde was going to need a home at some point anyway. I had fallen in love, and my mom kind of recognized and identified that Clyde chose me, and that I would provide a perfect home for him and be able to give him everything that he needs and all the attention he needs and love and care. So yeah, we shoved him in the car, and by shoved him in the car, I mean put him in a travel cage in my lap, where I kind of held him like this the entire time, in his little travel cage, where he kept giving me little kisses and singing to me, which just completely reinstilled in my head that I made the right choice, when in reality, actually, he's the one that made the choice. I'm just going by Clyde's lead. But anyway, so we're pretty much back to Seattle at this point. And finally, after trying to get a hold of Jamie and Dave through their parents, through any means we possibly could, we finally hear back from them and get the go-ahead, even though we kind of already went ahead and did the thing. But anyway, it all worked out in the end. Clyde is in his new home in Seattle, and I am tasked with the responsibility of getting him acclimated to his new home and integrating him into his new flock. That flock consisting of my two sons, Steven and Larry, my little budgies. I definitely had some reservations bringing Clyde back. Just because I'm very bonded with my two budgies, and I was very concerned of there being jealousy issues or even just squabbling, fighting, or just anxiety in general. You know, I want everyone to be happy, and obviously they're gonna see me spending a little bit of extra time with this new bird, and I don't want them to feel hurt over it. So I had to be very strategic in my daily routines and rituals at first with Clyde, Steve, and Larry. What I started doing was incorporating Clyde into my dinner time routine with Steve and Larry that I had anyway, which is I give them their chop and some, wet kale leaves for them to play and bathe in. And I decided to bring all of that in the bedroom and kind of set up 3 dishes instead of 2, and 3, kale leaf clusters instead of 2. Surprisingly, they got along okay. Steve was very like, whoa, what are you? And Larry was actually the one that had a bigger problem of the 2 budgies than I thought that he would. He definitely was hormonal and territorial and a little bit salty, to word it nicely. So there was a lot of displays there. There's a lot of dive bombing and a lot of like, I'm gonna yoink on your tail just to be a jerk levels of stuff. So when that would happen, I'd kind of separate them, and every day that went by after that where I'd have them do this dinner time thing together, it got easier and easier, and everyone got friendlier and friendlier, and Steve got less and less like long and tall. You know how they do when they get scared over nothing, which budgies like to do. So everyone started acting normal. Again, I'd keep an eye on them just to make sure, because Clyde is definitely bigger and he could inflict a little bit of damage if he wanted to, but Clyde's just a big old dorky sweetheart, so he just wanted some buddies and he was totally fine with it. And eventually Larry got over whatever his problem was. And Steve, surprisingly, Steve was the one that I thought, the little blue one, you'll see somewhere in this video. Actually, you can kind of see some portraits of him behind me. That's how obsessive I am with my birds. By the way, I am that crazy bird lady. But I thought Steve was going to be the one that had the problem because we are especially bonded, but no, I guess our bond is that strong that he didn't feel super threatened. Yeah, every day it seems to get better and easier, and everyone, I don't know, we feel like a real flock now. Clyde seems super happy here, and he's definitely way more hand tame than he was. Perhaps that's because I won't stop playing with him because he's so freaking cute. I can't not play with him. I don't know what else to say. Again, he chose me, and I'm super happy that he did because I love having him as part of my flock, and I can't wait to love on him for the next X amount of years. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you to Jimmy and Dave for giving me that opportunity and letting me tell my story to you guys. I hope you have a great day. Thanks, bye.
Is that your new girlfriend? Ooh.